It's Friday night, which means it's time for Friday Night Feuds number 5, and this time it's Tool versus Howard Stern. As is the case with a lot of these feuds that we do here, you will find this one to be pretty one-sided, mostly just one person driving this feud. In this case, it is, of course, Howard Stern. I mean, come on, did we really think it would be Tool? Howard was absolutely peaking as the self-proclaimed king of all media throughout the 90s, as his radio show was booming. He had a string of very successful pay-per-views and home videos, as well as 2 successful books that he wrote in the 90s, Private Parts and Miss America, the first of which was, of course, adapted into a movie in 1997. And while Private Parts was in production, Tool, who Howard Stern was a fan of, they were working on their second album, Anima, which was released in the fall of 1996, just a few months before Private Parts released in early 1997. And during the Anima sessions, the band recorded a cover of the Led Zeppelin classic No Quarter. It really is a great cover. I'll put a link to it down below if you've not heard it or you want to check it out again. And I have seen online that it was originally, it was going to appear on a Led Zeppelin tribute album. Most likely, I would think one from 1995 called Incomnium, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I've not really been able to find any solid proof that the song was, in fact, recorded specifically for that tribute album. But regardless, it was Tool's cover of No Quarter that Howard Stern had tried to get added to the Private Parts soundtrack, which would have been a great addition, really, because not only was Howard a Tool fan, but he's also a big Led Zeppelin fan, and Howard himself is the one who curated the soundtrack. He picked most, if not all, of the songs that appear on it. And apparently Tool's label at that time, Zoo Entertainment, they gave Howard the green light when at the very last second Tool themselves pulled it. I don't think it was anything to do with Howard Stern himself necessarily. And honestly, at that time, Howard was so huge and relevant that it almost certainly would have helped them out in those days, bringing them more exposure. They weren't quite what they are today in terms of how huge they are. But the reason that Tool pulled it was their no soundtrack policy. So with that, Zoo Entertainment ultimately reneged on the deal. But Howard wanted the song on the soundtrack really, really bad. And honestly, I'm just kind of speculating here, but it was probably a relatively easy way to get a Led Zeppelin song on the soundtrack, because especially at that time, I believe Led Zeppelin was very, very selective about what they would allow their songs to be a part of. So it probably was, a little bit of a decent workaround for Howard to get Zeppelin in some capacity on the Private Parts soundtrack. But with Zoo Entertainment saying it was not happening after all, Howard, or maybe Paramount or Reicher Entertainment, that was the distributor and production company of Private Parts, they apparently offered even more money, but ultimately Tool stood their ground and still declined, leaving an 11-minute gap on the soundtrack. It's a pretty long cover. I think the original Led Zeppelin version is like 7 minutes or so, give or take. Tool's is 11 minutes. It's a very, very long cover, but again, it is a great cover if you've not heard it. But anyways, when they pulled that at the last second, it left an 11-minute gap on the soundtrack. That gap apparently sent Howard over the edge because, according to Far Out magazine, in 1997, Howard Stern did an interview with Rock Flash where he had some very harsh words for Tool and Zoo Entertainment. Here's what he said in that interview at the time. Fuck Tool and fuck Zoo. I don't care if you print that. They're assholes. On top of that, Howard also had all of Tool's music removed as a lead-in coming out of a break. So needless to say, he was pretty pissed off, and his anger towards Tool and their members over that situation lasted for at least another decade after that whole Private Parts situation, because at one point, Tool frontman Maynard James Keenan wanted to come on the show and promote another band of his, A Perfect Circle. And just like Howard was denied his request to have Tool's cover of No Quarter on the Private Parts soundtrack, Howard denied Maynard James Keenan the opportunity to come on the air and promote anything, with Maynard James Keenan telling Metal Edge in 2007, Howard Stern has been keeping me out of his studio for years. I'm not even in New York, and he's talking about how I'm in the lobby wanting to come up to talk to him. And he says, get that guy out of here. And I'm in LA. Aside from that quote from Maynard James Keenan and Howard Stern bringing it up again in 2006 and sort of recapping everything that we just went over in this video, both parties remained mostly silent after that, but then things did change in 2019 when Tool released the very highly anticipated album Fear Inoculum. And according to the website MarksFriggin.com, which if you're unfamiliar is a very, very great and very, very detailed, basically Howard Stern fan site, the guy has documented and archived basically every single second of every single episode of the Howard Stern Show, going all the way back to like the 90s or something like that. I mean, some serious dedication. really is incredible. I think he's slowed down in recent years. I think a lot of it now is just some bullet points and things like that. But I mean, that's a long time to spend on something. I don't know if he was getting paid for it. I don't know if there was any ad revenue. I have no idea. But really, really great website if you haven't checked it out. And it's great for reference. You ever want to see what Howard Stern was talking about at any point in time, it's on there. So check that out. But anyways, when that album came out, Howard, of course, brought it up, as well as his previous issues with the band. And he also said that Tool claims that they weren't even in on the whole Private Parts situation with not allowing No Quarter to be on the soundtrack. Here's the summary of what was said, as according to MarksFriggin.com. He said he read about the new Tool album and listened to that. He said he was mad at them for backing out of the record deal they were going to do for his movie. He said that they had an 11-minute version of No Quarter that they were going to put on that album. He said he cleared 11 minutes for the album and then they pulled out. He said they claimed they weren't even in on it. He said their new album is pretty good from what he heard. Now, it is also worth pointing out that just a few months prior to that, it was revealed that Justin Bieber is a fan of Tool when he posted lyrics from The Pot on his Instagram. And then to finding out that Justin Bieber is a Tool fan, Maynard James Keenan tweeted in response simply saying #bummer. And that was inevitably discussed on the show, with Howard questioning why that was a bummer to them, before then suggesting that Bieber responded to them saying that the guys in Tool would be lucky to even mow his lawn. But, honestly, that just sounds kind of more like a just your typical Howard Stern goof, not necessarily rooted in the No Quarter feud. So I don't really put too much stock, or summer stock, since we're talking about Private Parts, into that one. And as we wrap this one up, it is worth pointing out that if you are unaware, Tool did end up releasing their cover of No Quarter on their Salival box set in 2000. And a video to the song is linked below if you have yet to hear it, or maybe you want to check it out again. It really, really is a great cover. And with the sound of the bell, that is going to do it for this week's episode of Friday Night Feuds. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to drop a like and subscribe below if you feel like it. And while you're down there, feel free to drop a comment and let me know what other feuds you would like to see as we move forward. But that is all that I got for you for right now. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next time.